Someone's text just saying, will you hurry up and get Chris Jericho on?
Hurry up, please. I'm sitting here for an hour.
Don't worry, he's here. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chris Jericho is here live on Radio X this morning, and it's an absolute... You're probably used to slightly bigger ovations than the one you just received there.
That was nice. That was a cozy ovation.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
That would be the epitome of a warm welcome.
I'm glad you enjoyed it as well.
So. Thank you.
We've got lots to talk about because you've got a very, very busy weekend. I'm trying to work out the best order to do things. Let's go chronological. Why not? So, first of all, tonight, you and your band are performing at the O2 Academy in Islington, which is such a great venue, by the way. I love that you're playing there. So I want to talk to you about that, first of all. And there are some tickets available, very few tickets left. So I suggest jumping on them right now. How cool would it be? You wake up this morning, go, I don't know what I'm going to do tonight, and you've just found out tickets available. See Fozzy
it's
tonight.
One of those things where, like, this isn't like a show business trick. Like, tickets available. Like, there's literally only a few left, which is great. This is our third headlining show, basically, in the fiscal year in London, and they've all sold out. So it just shows that we've always said that the UK is Fozzy's second home. This was the first, territory where the fans just went nuts for us right out of the gate. I remember our first show was at Nottingham Rock City.
Wow.
In the small room. And when I walked on stage, I thought I was at the wrong gig because the place was packed. This was about 2006 or so. And it's been that way ever since. So we've had some great shows here in the UK and especially in London. So it's great to be back. Like you said, Islington is amazing. We've played there many times before. And we're going to tear it down tonight. This might be the last day that the Islington Academy exists.
Yeah.
Fozzy might literally cave in the roof with our maximum raucosity.
Oh, that's a shame. I like that venue as well. Well, it was
I know. That's what happens. There was a place in Luxembourg. We played it. It literally fell apart. Never been seen again. Disappeared into the earth.
Well, there you go. Your last chance to ever see the O2 Academy in Islington is tonight when Fozzy performed there before it's gone forever.
Figuratively, of course.
So Fozzy started in 1999, which is pretty much around the same time that you joined WWE. So was that not the most chaotic few years ever, trying to balance those two things at once?
Well, it's amazing to think that it's been the 25th anniversary of Fozzy at this point in time. And we were just looking at our song Judas, which just crossed 100 million streams.
Yeah.
Wow.
And went gold in the United States, which means 500,000 units sold.
Wow.
So in this day and age, that's really crazy because it used to be based just on sales alone, but now it's like a combination of streaming and sales and even YouTube video views. So just to see how the business has changed since '99 has been quite a trip. But the fact that we're probably bigger now than we've ever been after all that time in our 25th anniversary, it's a real testament to the band and to the fans that we have. And once again, I can't stress how amazing the UK fans have been to us all across the board. So it's been a really exciting time for sure, and chaotic, but it's rock and roll, so of course it's going to be chaotic. If it wasn't chaotic, you'd be, in a boy band or something. It would be the S Club, S Club 2024.
Whoa! You're in the UK. You don't badmouth S Club round here.
I just did. We used to start our show off with a guy would come on stage with we used to call it ghetto blaster, like a tape machine, press play, and it'd be the S Club playing. I remember we did this. I think it wasn't the Mead film, the Astoria, the London Astoria.
Oh yeah.
Talk about a classic building before they tore it down. So a guy would walk on stage and press play, and then an S Club song would play, and the Fozzy crowd would start booing. Then I'd come out with a baseball bat and just smash the ghetto blaster. Bow, 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 bow. So yeah, Fozzy versus the S Club at Wembley Stadium next year.
I like the idea of members of S Club going, what did we ever do to Fozzy?
We love you, S Club. Joey and Danny and Art, Stevie.
Yeah,
Did I get any of those guys?
Yeah,
Anybody name that?
None of those were correct, but you gave
Give
it
me
a
one
go.
S Club guy.
Rachel?
Rachel.
Yeah.
Me and Rachel are like this.
Now, you've also shared the stage with Metallica and Iron Maiden. I mean, that has to be a pinch yourself moment watching those guys.
It really was, and it wasn't just sharing a stage. So the Metallica, we toured with them in Australia. It was a festival called Soundwave, and it was really cool. Like, obviously, they're massive headlining the stadiums, but the way they treated all the other bands on the bill, you could really learn from them and just to see just how professional they are. And the very first night of the tour, they had a big party for all the bands, like a big barbecue, like a Metallica barbecue. And there's I don't know how many other bands there were in the bill because it was like a traveling festival. So let's say, I don't know, 20, whatever it was. And Lars actually had this book made with a picture of every band and their names. And he's like, even if I don't know who the guys are, maybe I'll recognize their faces. And I just thought that was really cool that he was trying hard to make sure that he would know as many of the people that he could, you know. So it was just cool to watch them and see how they ran their business. And just the bigger the bands get, the cooler they are.
Yeah.
And then Maiden, we actually opened for them in a stadium in Los Angeles. We were direct support. It was Fozzy and Iron Maiden. And that was really cool because you go into the dressing room and there's a big tub of Trooper beer, Iron Maiden's beer, and it has like a note that says, "To Fozzy from Eddie and the Boys."
Oh, it's so cool.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like, come on, man. How much cooler is that?
That's amazing.
And then just to see, like, there's this big kind of, I don't know, like a deflated, like, pool toy. And then you realize, oh, that's the plane for Aces High. They just blew up the giant plane, and it looks like a real plane, but it's just like a big balloon.
Wow.
So to kind of see behind the scenes was awesome as well. So anyways, anytime you get a chance to play with those types of bands, and listen, you got to take your fandom and put it in your pocket and go out there to destroy, because if you don't have that attitude, Maiden fans will eat you alive.
Yeah.
And we had a great show. It was awesome. You can't care. Like, just balls to the wall and just go for it. Aces High, shall we say, all guns blazing. And it's a real kind of testament to your band if you can get a reaction when you play with those types of acts.
Yeah, I love it when you go to a gig and you see support act come out sometimes. And some people will know them and be really excited. Some people are there with a beer just going, oh, and I love it when you watch a support act slowly just win the crowd over, and by the end, everyone's just going nuts for them. I love it.
We opened for Motorhead in Los Angeles years ago, and it was the same. There was one guy in the front row, kind of a big biker type with his arms crossed, giving us the evil eye. And I remember towards the end of the set, he didn't actually clap or anything. He just uncrossed his arms and gave a thumbs up and a slight nod.
That's so rock and roll.
And I was like, all right, we got him. We got him.
We got a thumbs up from the scary guy.
We did.
Now, because what's pretty cool is that your entrance theme is Fozzy and it's your band, right? Now, is that a bit of a big moment when you're looking at the other wrestlers backstage who have got and you're going, oh, you got a band performing your entrance music? That's sweet. I do my own. Is that pretty cool, walking out to your own band?
It's funny because I had a very famous entrance song in WWE called Break the Wall Down. So when I left WWE, you can't obviously use it because they own it. And I thought, well, why don't we try Judas? Because it's got the same type of, like, swagger to it. And so the first time I used that was in the Tokyo Dome, and it really fit. So then when we started with AEW, I started to use that as well. But then when the very first or second, the second Jericho cruise, I have my own cruise, rock and wrestling, et cetera, that we were doing a TV taping for AEW Dynamite. And we played Judas, and all the people in the cruise sang along with it.
Great.
And I was like, oh my gosh, we've got something here. And then, so it became a thing. Like, you know, for the next couple months, people are singing Judas. And then the pandemic came, and we were wrestling in front of 0 people. So now I'm like coming to the ring, but the music's playing. And then when we finally started letting people back in about 6 months later, I was like, I hope people remember to sing along. And the first night, it was only about 500 people, but they were singing Judas, and it felt like a stadium crowd. They remembered. So it became a thing. It went basically viral and became part of the show where people were singing along with Judas. And then, you know, you change things up from time to time. Now we use the song Spotlight, but we know we can always go back to Judas if we have to.
Oh, it's so cool. Well, if you only know Chris Jericho from wrestling, then go and listen to Fozzy at some point today. And the tickets might have gone already, but there's literally a handful of tickets left for the show tonight, the O2 Academy in Islington. Chris, I've got to go to a break. I want to talk about this amazing wrestling event on Sunday and ask you about 1 billion questions, if that's okay.
Sounds good. 1,000,000,001.
And if you just joined us, we are joined by the legend that is the wrestler, Mr. Chris Jericho, frontman of the band Fozzy. And just for you, Chris.
Your good friend Rachel.
Oh, that's Club. I thought it was Wham, Jitterbug.
It does sound a bit like that, actually.
Jitterbug.
Just a bit of S Club. There's your mate.
Oh my gosh. People people listen to that? Sounds like the beginning of like a rom-com starring like, you know, Sandra Bullock or something. Just walking down the street.
But please don't take a baseball bat to this computer because it's quite expensive. But if you just...
Now I know what the S and S Club stands for.
I love the fact that we've started some beef between Fozzy and S Club 7 on the show this morning.
And we also solved the world's problems with Oasis. We made a couple predictions during the break.
Yeah, we were just chatting.
I think Oasis is going to get back together sooner than later. I think that these guys, Noel and Liam, have it all figured out and they know what they want to do. That's my prediction.
I love that. I love that. You heard it here first from Chris Jericho. It would be, in the UK,
massive,
the biggest thing ever.
I was just saying, every 10 years, a band that you never thought would get back together does. It was the Police in 07, huge worldwide thing. Guns N' Roses in 17, huge worldwide thing. Oasis is next, 2025.
Yeah, well, we were talking about the Eagles' Hell Freezes Over tour as well. If Eagles can get back together, anyone can get.
Right.
If Fleetwood Mac could go on stage every night after everything those guys have been through.
The guys and girls, yeah. So yeah, it's exciting though. It's an exciting thought because, like you said, that would be a worldwide, earth-shaking event.
I think they could just sell out Wembley Stadium every night forever. I think people would just keep going back.
So Taylor Swift just did 7 shows at Wembley?
Something like that, yeah.
Oasis could do 20.
Oh, easy.
Like you said, Billy Joel did a residency at the Madison Square Garden once a month. Oasis could do a residency at Wembley Stadium.
Easy. Oh, I think our boss at Radio X would cry when the announcement happens because it will be manna from heaven from Radio X because we've been playing them every 15 minutes for 9 years. Now, we talked a bit about Fozzy. I don't know if the tickets have all gone for the gig tonight, but go down to O2 Academy Islington and go and see Fozzy tonight. And then we haven't even talked about the fact that you are at Wembley Stadium.
Oh, yeah, Wembley Stadium. I forgot.
I mean,
Radio
it's the yin and the yang
X.
because that stadium has seen Taylor Swift and now it's seen Chris Jericho in the space of a few days. So All Elite Wrestling is at Wembley Stadium on Sunday the 25th of August. And I was watching some videos earlier of the last time you did an event at Wembley Stadium and it looked incredible. You walking out singing your own theme tune with fireworks going off from Wembley Arch. Now, you've done some pretty cool stuff in your career. Where does that rank?
I mean, that's pretty much close to the top because it was the biggest thing you could do in both genres, both of vocations. It was the biggest show in pro wrestling history with 81,000 tickets sold. And combine that with Fozzy playing it. So for my band, we got to play Wembley. And to wrestle Wembley, it was just a combination of just amazing feelings. But the thing is, though, it wasn't easy because we kind of started on this perch. And then the intro starts, and I kind of command the crowd. Then I got to run across a row of seats, climb over a barricade, go down a ladder, run to the entrance, grab the microphone, and start singing. So it's like, it was a good idea at the time, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like, I got to do some rappelling here. And then sing yourself to the ring and then have a match against England's own Will Ospreay and have a classic with him. So it was a lot of pressure. So, of course, I'm doing it again this year.
Yeah, I love that.
We'll sing ourselves to the ring again
Oh,
this
it's
year.
so cool. What do your bandmates think of this? Because they've just finished performing, they've done their bit, they've played the song, and then you're just wrestling a guy and they're just sat there just going, oh, Chris is wrestling now. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's a crazy thing, you know, to do both these things. But that's what I wanted to do when I was a kid. I remember being a teenager and going, I want to be in a rock and roll band and I want to be a wrestler. And when you're 13, 14 years old and maybe tell your friends that, people are laughing, you'll never do it, you'll never do it. And I never really cared what other people thought. I just knew that I wanted to do it. So when you get a chance to play Wembley with both of those things, I think I can pretty much shove it down people's throats that didn't believe in me.
Yeah, that's so
Suck
cool.
it, haters.
Yeah, suck it, haters. Suck it, S Club 7.
Not my words, those are his words.
I've got dragged into this mess now.
There's a 7 in there.
Yeah, although I think
that.
sadly they might be S Club 6 now.
Oh, wow.
I think,
Okay,
sadly, I think S Club 6. Now, so I want to ask you a bit about just your ridiculous life and your career and stuff. So, face and heels, which basically is good guys and bad guys, to those that don't understand wrestling. You've played both in your career. Which one's more fun?
You know what they call them in the UK?
No.
Villains and blue eyes.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
That's a little bit more of an old school term.
Really?
Blue eyes would be the baby face. I mean, they're both fun.
Yeah.
As long as the crowd is reacting and having a good time and are into what you're doing, that's the most important thing. Having said that, it's always easier to make people hate you than it is to make them like you. But once you get them to hate you, then eventually they start to like you. And the best example of that is not just in wrestling. And look at pop culture, like Darth Vader, Terminator, Hannibal Lecter, Freddy Krueger. Had Heath Ledger not passed away, the Joker would have been a babyface the next movie. Because heels are always the most over-the-top entertaining, and you love to hate them until eventually you just love to love them.
Yeah. I always remember Stone Cold Steve Austin. The more he tried to be hated, the more everyone was like, man, I love this guy.
I mean, exactly. You get to a certain point where you just can't help it because he's so, you're so entertaining or so charismatic or so engaging. But that's the most important thing. Like wrestling, it's all about the characters and storylines. The matches are important too, but if you don't have a good story and a good character and really hook people to get involved in what you're doing, it really doesn't matter.
But yeah, I would say it's EastEnders with fighting.
I mean, it really is. It's a modern day Shakespearean play.
Yeah.
If Shakespeare was still alive today, he'd probably be writing wrestling stories.
Oh, man, that I would have liked to have seen. Yeah, because you've done so much throughout your career as well. But so you started out wrestling in Mexico first, and then you obviously ended up in WWE a few years later. Now, how crazy is that when you must have been watching those guys, and suddenly a few years later, The Rock's got you in a headlock? Were you there going, this is awesome, The Rock's got me in a headlock?
Well, no, because at that point in time, I was there to be The Rock's rival. So once again, it's like we talked. And the Rock started years after I did. So he was obviously super huge when I got to WWE in 99. And that was like the first kind of guy that I was in the ring with. There's actually just the 25th anniversary of the debut of Y2J just a few weeks ago. But once again, all I wanted to do when I was a kid was go to the WWF, and I started, the journey through Canada and Mexico and Germany and Japan, a couple other companies. When I finally got there, it's really cool. But if you're wandering around with your head in the clouds going, I can't believe it, this is a dream. No, you can't do that. Now the real work starts. Yeah. Now I gotta make a mark here and make a splash and make an explosion. So it was. Anytime you start with a new company, it's hard. And it was really hard starting with WWE. And it took a few years kind of acclimate. And then next thing you know, you're headlining WrestleMania. So
cool. So for people that don't know wrestling and don't watch it at all, like, it is an insane lifestyle. I mean, you guys are on the road all the time. And without the shows, there must be so much rehearsal and rehearsing fights and rehearsing. But
no, there's zero rehearsal. That's
really
kind of a misconception. And it's not as bad as it used to be. We used to before go 4 days a week or 5 days a week. Now it's once a week, maybe twice a week, but there's no rehearsal.
Really?
It's like being in a jazz band or an improv comic. When you get to this level, you just work with each other. We don't have time to rehearse,
right? Yeah.
Anything. Maybe rehearse like tomorrow. We'll be rehearsing ring entrances and things of those lines because you have pyro and that sort of thing. But the match itself, maybe if there's a move that you haven't done before, or some kind of a concept, you might try it for 5 seconds. But I could go in the ring and have a match with you right now, even though you've never been in the ring before.
Well, you'd be a pretty brave man, Chris Jericho.
You are paddling a unicorn down the Thames, so I got to be careful what I talk about here.
Well, what's really embarrassing is that this physique that you're looking at right here, Chris Jericho, this is after 6 weeks of training.
Wow. What's Ricky Gervais's buddy, Stephen Merchant. Stephen Merchant. You're like the wish list Stephen Merchant. We've got Stephen Merchant.
This scab on my elbow, that's from cricket. So, you'd be pretty brave to take me on, Chris Jericho, okay? Now, you're fighting this on Sunday. This will mean nothing to some people and everything to some people. So you're fighting Taz, the old wrestler. You're fighting his son. Now, is that a moment where you go,
it's Hook. He's not. His name is.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, it's Hook. But
his name is Hook. Is his Hook is Taz's son. Taz is Hook's father.
Yeah, but is there a moment where you go, I've been in this industry a long time when I'm fighting the guys that used to wrestle's son now?
It's interesting. There's been a couple of them. I just wrestled the Dynamite Kid's nephew on Wednesday night, who's about 23 years old. And then listen, I guess it's a testament to having longevity.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've put together once again a really cool storyline with Hook that we started in February. And I remember in about May thinking, can we take this to Wembley? And then you start thinking, how can we work this story? Because it's a great kind of, it's an epic tale of good versus evil. And there's been a lot of different components and a lot of different characters involved. So when you get something like that, like a storyline that's lasted this long and has been very engaging the whole way through, I'm very proud of it. So this is the final battle with Hook and Jericho tomorrow. And no matter who wins or loses, we won't be facing each other again. So it really is, to me, kind of like the return of the Jedi. End of the whole tale of the first 3 movies, at least, but in a good way. And what a great way to do it at Wembley Stadium.
Oh, it's going to be so great. Well, whatever you're doing on Sunday night, make sure you're watching All Elite Wrestling at Wembley Stadium. And tonight, again, I keep saying it, if you're going to the gig, have the most incredible time. We've had so many people texting in all morning who's basically saying they're doing the Chris Jericho double. They're doing the gig tonight and the wrestling on Sunday.
It's become like a tradition because we did it last year, like you mentioned, and it really went well. And it's a whole weekend because it's a big deal all in at Wembley. So there's a huge fan festival tomorrow. Fozzy's on the Friday. And I think we're going to continue to do this at every all in, whether it's in London. I think next year we're in Dallas doing it. It just makes it part of a whole, it's like a giant event, not just one show. It's a whole weekend. It's a weekend of fun featuring Chris Jericho.
I love it. Well, Chris Jericho, it's been an absolute honour having you on radio. Please come back and see us anytime you're in London. And best of luck with the gig and the fight on Sunday.
And hey, you never know. You said it's S Club 6. Maybe it'll audition. Next year could be S Club 7.
Now, wouldn't that be a beautiful full circle story? That would be the most wrestling storyline ever. After all this beef, if you end up in S Club 7, you complete S Club 7.
Me and Rachel are going to talk later on.
It writes itself. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Jericho on Radio X. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Radio X.